Welcome, Otto. It's great to have you here.
Thank you.
Yes, let's get you. There you go. Good deal. So, Otto, you are in a really unique position. You started off in the technology world. You're a computer scientist. And for the past 2.5 years, you have been leading a content company. And it's a completely different perspective for you. What have you learned? What have been the biggest surprises for you at HBO over the past 2.5 years?
Well, the first thing that I'll say is I learned that I needed to watch a lot more TV, for starters. But I've learned, and that was part of my hypothesis for coming on board HBO was that combining the power of rich storytelling and compelling content with digital technology and fusing those two things together could be an incredibly compelling way to kind of resynthesize what the content experience and TV was about.
So one of the things that I know you do at HBO is actually include the creators of the content in the process of developing the technology to some extent. Can you go over what that's like and how that makes a difference for you and how it changes the ultimate product?
And we're really just at the starting point of that process. Step one is to create a dialogue between.
Mic
yeah.
up. Otto, can you just speak up into the mic?
Yeah, sorry about
there you
that.
Go.
So,
why don't you hand that?
Here.
Thank you.
So step one in this process is to really start a dialogue with the storytelling creatives and the technology and software creatives, and start looking at the art of the possible. What we've delivered to date with HBO Go is a great start, and we can look at some examples of that fusion through things like the interactive viewing experience and the smart glass product that we put out there, which provides an overlay of an additional experience on top of the True Blood and Game of Thrones content. But this is really just a starting point. We're at the very early stages of really finding what possible new experiences we can build with that collaboration.
It's fascinating because you are in a different position than a lot of the other companies. In fact, you've got this interesting dynamic in the industry where the Netflixes and the Amazons and the Hulus of the world, the technology companies, are starting to create their own content. HBO, which has always had its own content for years, is creating its own technology. What are those companies doing right? What are Netflix and Amazon and Hulu doing right as they're making this transition into the world of content?
Well, I have a lot of respect for the technology implementation that they have and the technology stack that they put together. But one of the primary reasons I joined HBO was because of the incredibly powerful content and creative original programming that we have. HBO owns its original programming, and from my experience, having compelling content is very enduring. So bringing modern digital technology and software creation in addition to that powerful original programming, I think puts HBO in a very unique position relative to somebody like Netflix or Hulu.
So you said at the beginning that this is just the beginning, but it seems like in some ways you're a little bit hamstrung because the subscription has to go through the cable company. Are there efforts inside HBO to break free from that, and are you guys as technologists leading the charge trying to explore other monetization opportunities that might in fact allow people to experience HBO content without having to pay for a giant cable subscription?
I mean, I'll separate out the two questions. One is a business question,
yeah.
And the whole going over the top and alternate business models. But that question does not impede the other question of synthesizing and creating new experiences, so that I don't feel that we're limited or handicapped in any way in that regard.
So does that mean you're exploring things that could come up later on and actually allow for alternative revenue streams at HBO?
My focus and our focus is building the best possible technology and the best possible experience, and the business model question will be answered when it's answered.
Okay, understood. Good. So this is your Twitter picture right here. I want to take you down a little bit of a stroll down memory lane. Now, it may not
update that thing.
you haven't aged at all, actually. Seriously. So tell folks what that device is right there in front of you on the table.
So that was an early example of a slate computer. So that was a device that ran Windows XP. It was touch and pen enabled. It had a 7-inch display. It had some additional software on top of the base Windows XP software that enabled a full touch UI.
So this was about 8 years before the iPad.
Yeah.
So this was a tablet.
Yeah.
You are not using this device today, or any successor to it. You actually carry you carry an iPad with you. How does that make you feel? Is it a bittersweet feeling as you carry an iPad around to the hey, that could have been us?
Well, if it was my previous Microsoft hat on, yeah, that could have been, Microsoft could have taken, an alternate approach.
But Todd, you have the Surface there.
I know. I almost dropped it earlier. Did you notice that? I'm sure it would have survived.
On the whole, it makes me feel good. It's really not bittersweet. Timing. Sometimes timing is everything, and I think Apple gets a lot of credit for both refining the user experience to a point where it could really take off as a large-scale product, and finding the point in time where the right technologies could come together at the right price point in the right package.
Okay, so here's where we're able to tap your knowledge to look ahead. You've had a ton of experience in this market, in the tablet market, and now you're actually addressing it from a completely different perspective as a content creation company and a technology company. If you look 2, 3, 4 years out, how do you see iPad, Android, and maybe even Windows stacking up? Do you see one dominant player among those three, or could there be someone who we don't even think about in that conversation today?
It's too early to tell. Certainly in the tablet space, where we see that there are 2 large-scale players, and there's room for a third. And I think it's healthy to have consumer choice and some variety in both product and the technologies that that different platforms provide. Galaxy Note is a great example of something that I would consider to be in the slate category. But one of the interesting aspects of the Note is that it has a stylus as well. Yeah. So it's in some ways like a miniature classic tablet.
Yeah.
So how are people breaking down in terms of the user base on HBO Go across those devices? Are you seeing, or is it largely iPad, or is it Google tablets, or Android tablets? What are you seeing?
Well, at a high level, the majority of use is mobile devices. So just this past August, 60% of the active users were on mobile devices. So that's certainly
60% of all HBO Go users.
Right.
Active, so majority of your user base is actually mobile.
That's right. I mean, if I understand correctly, you have a lot of PC signups, but then people don't end up actually watching the content on the PC as much as they watch on the mobile device.
Well, it's interesting. Let's talk about that a bit more. In terms of length of engagement, effectively scales with display size, and which is a proxy for how mobile, a screen is. Take Xbox, for example. Xbox, the length of engagement with a typical Xbox user is twice as long as a mobile device, and the PC, both laptop and desktop, is right in between. And if you think about it in terms of screen size and mobility, obviously the more mobile you are, the more interruptions you have, and the less likely you are to sit through a whole episode. But the big screen is it's a completely non-mobile device, and typically you're intent on watching a full episode uninterrupted.
Right. Yeah. So you mentioned the Xbox, and obviously you develop at HBO for a variety of platforms. One of them that you're on is the Xbox 360, and that's one of the alternative ways that people can watch HBO content on the big screen. Are you developing an app, an HBO app for the Xbox One?
I'll answer it this way. We're interested in...
Come on, Otto, we need to make some news here. Come on, let it rip.
So obviously we're on 360. Xbox One, has been announced, and it's out there. And look, we want to be on all the popular platforms going forward. So
I'm taking that as a yes. So to that point, you actually are across all these different platforms. Yeah. To what extent, and this is a challenge that a lot of people in the audience face in a smaller way. They're not developing necessarily for every single one of the ones that you are.
Well,
but
we just did with our own app.
That's right. That's right. We had to make the trade-offs. Exactly.
The pain. Yeah.
Many companies are facing this challenge today. How much of the code at this point are you able to share across those devices underneath, and how much repetition can you have there?
So there are two pieces, obviously. The actual app. That's on the device, and then the service, the back end. So the back end, the good news there is that a lot of that is the vast majority of it is common code and can be common code. On the application side, it's more difficult, and one of the investments that we have going forward, and this is where the Seattle team comes into play.
Yep.
Is looking at ways to have more code reuse and common technologies across the platform, so that we are able to support more platforms, have greater agility and velocity of the features that we release across all of them.
Is HTML5 the ultimate answer there, or is there another solution that might help you port among those different platforms more easily?
HTML5 is definitely not a panacea. I'm a big HTML5 fan, but there are still features and functionality that you simply can't access through an HTML5 interface, especially on more advanced platforms like game consoles. Game consoles come to mind specifically. But also, even on the PC. I mean, the PC is a extremely powerful platform as well. So, I think it's going to be a hybrid going forward. On some platforms, it will certainly, be of user benefit to have a client that's a custom client and really takes full advantage of the platform capabilities to surface features. And functionality that would not be possible with an HTML5 web app.
Okay.
Speaking of different platforms, what about Google Chromecast? I'm just very interested to get your feelings on that. Our GeekWire columnist here, Frank Catalano, wrote a great piece about his experience and really loved it. And from a consumer standpoint, it seems great. I'd just love to get your feelings on it and what your plans are for that.
Well, I have one, so
You have a Chromecast,
I have a Chromecast.
Not
you
a
like
plan.
it?
It's I think of it as essentially a wireless display adapter, and for that, it's very simple, it's very straightforward, and I think it will have utility for that kind of scenario.
Now, the native apps on the Google Chromecast, the things that you can get just by plugging it in, include Netflix and they also include YouTube. Will there be an HBO Go native app for Google Chromecast?
Well, I would have been surprised if it didn't come with YouTube, since it's a
Yes,
Google product. And you know, as again, I'll answer it as I did with you know, the Xbox One question. We want to be on platforms that have you know high utility and value, you know, for our subscribers.
Yep. I'll just remind you that if you want to contribute to the conversation here, the best way right now, we'll get some questions in later, but just tweet to #GW Summit. John is monitoring.
Yeah, I'm monitoring it here.
It's not coming through on my Surface, but you're getting it on your iPhone.
That's right. And we're back to our old shtick here, Tom, like we're on the radio show. But we do have a question that came in.
Great.
It harkens back, and I think it is the big question that is lingering in the room that a lot of HBO customers or would-be customers want to know. So Emily Rapp, and I think this hits on it. We touched on it earlier a little bit. She asked, the question everyone wants to know, HBO without a cable subscription, will it happen?
Is this the third rail of corporate politics at HBO that we're asking you to touch right here?
It's fine, because you know, the question gets gets asked at every every presentation.
And now you're going to give us the answer for real.
I'll answer it. Yeah, sorry. So I'll answer. Sorry about that. I'll answer the question, you know, in the most straightforward fashion that I can, which is really it's a business question, and you know, we have an extremely effective and powerful business model. You know, it would not make sense to disrupt that, you know, unless you know, the upside were, you know, significantly higher than any potential downside.
Okay. It seems to me that one of the functions of the financial relationship actually does have an impact on the technology setup that you have, in that you don't have the direct customer data from the financial purchases, because the financial relationship is with the cable companies, not with you. Does that ever put you at a disadvantage from a technology standpoint, where you're not able to provide the level of service that you could if you had a full understanding of the customer based on a financial relationship?
You know, frankly, it has not been an impediment yet, and it doesn't look like one with the features and functionality that you know, that we're planning for the future. So so far, it has not.
Okay.
But you know, that's that's the answer today. That could certainly change, you know, as our you know, feature set and you know, the richness of the functionality that we provide, you know, grows.
Yeah.
So I can ask it in another way. You have a growing Seattle office here,
Yes.
a development office, as a number of large technology companies do. You're hiring.
We are absolutely hiring.
Hiring like mad here, so
As
there's
fast as
the
we
plug
can.
for that. So here's
Yeah.
the question. Are you hiring anybody on the technology side that has a specialty in online advertising?
That's good.
I'll be frank. We are hiring, you know, just hardcore, you know, software developers who could potentially do anything, but.
All right, I tried.
Tell us about the Seattle office. How big are you now, and what made you decide to open an office here?
A great question. So just to kind of frame it, you know, roughly a year ago, Drew Angeloff was crazy enough to say yes to coming on board what was then, in a real sense, an experiment. You know, could we, you know, open an office here, and could it really enhance our, you know, our overall software development capacity in a significant way? And you know, when I think back, just, you know, a short year ago, you know, Drew and Gilman Wong were, you know, making trips to IKEA and setting up, you know, makeshift space, you know, in temporary, you know, temporary location. It was very much. I mean, if you look at the pictures, and the pictures are really amusing now, but you know, it looked like a classic startup. You know, kind of computers everywhere, and, you know, tables and cardboard boxes, and you know, now we have, you know, the top floor at 1100 Olive. You know, we've got, you know, real office space. We've got, you 20 plus engineers now, and hiring as aggressively as we can, and it's become a real cornerstone to our forward plans for what we want to build and how we want to build it.
In HBO broadly, the Seattle
certainly
office is playing the cornerstone.
in digital products broadly.
Yeah.
So beyond working on the online advertising products there, what sort of things are you working on? Like where do you see things headed with new technologies at HBO and HBO Go? What sort of new things are getting engineers excited, or you excited as CTO?
So we're starting the process of really thinking about what the next generation of HBO Go could be, what it could look like, how it could function, how it addresses some of the challenges, one of which you pointed out, which is code reuse between the different platforms. So that's very much work that's in progress, and I was just there visiting the office over the past couple of days, and there's a lot of activity, a lot of whiteboarding and architecture going on. And one of the themes is really thinking about HBO Go more as a storytelling platform than, and I don't want to say just, but than simply a streaming service. So becoming something broader than what it is today, and providing the means to create not just a dialogue, but a delivery vehicle for some of the ideas that are going to surface from the collaboration that we have with the creatives in LA and with OP.
Yeah, it's fascinating because you have actually gone down that direction as one of the flagship apps on the Xbox Smart Glass platform. It seems like it's a very first step, though, where you have the second screen in your lap that's actually complementing the experience on the big TV screen.
Yes.
Game of Thrones,
yes.
Maps, guides, that
yes.
sort of thing. Where is that headed, and will we actually be seeing second screens become a connected experience to the screen on the wall?
Second screen, I would say, is still has many unanswered questions. I would say it's still somewhat in the experimental phase. And speaking of experiments, I think there's a lot more experimentation to do in thinking about what are the compelling experiences that add to to the storytelling that we have. And what I'm hoping, and one of our goals is to build a platform and to build the software capability to run a lot more of those experiments, and see what resonates with with our subscribers, and see what doesn't, frankly.
Yeah. I hate to go back to your Microsoft experience one more time, but there's a question that everyone is talking about in the Seattle technology community these days, and that is just what's happened at Microsoft over the past 3 weeks, even, with Steve Ballmer announcing his plans to retire in 12 months.
Yeah.
You and I have talked a little bit in the past about just the whole succession issue. What characteristics should Microsoft be looking for in their next CEO? Should it be an engineer? Should it be a business person? Should it be Bill Gates?
Oh, I can't speak for Bill. No doubt it's an incredibly demanding position, and my personal bias and background, would like to see somebody with business acumen, but also a very solid foundation in technology and product development.
So who's the front runner?
Who is it?
Yeah, who's the front runner in your mind?
I
would meet those.
If I had a front runner, I would tell you, but I've been thinking about it. I will say that, but I don't have a specific person.
One of my theories is I think they should be hiring 4 CEOs and 4 different units and splitting the company up. And Todd and I've talked about this a lot. Do you think you came out with an Xbox background? Do you think that would make sense to split off Xbox and put a CEO in charge of that?
That's one of the theories that's been floated. I think you could come up with a number of different arrangements that are different than the current one that could make sense. I I think it's going to depend on who the CEO is, frankly, because some of the alternate configurations may make sense for one leader, but may not make sense for another, based on their background.
Well, we're going to be talking about this throughout the day. We have some other speakers who I think are going to be chatting about this as well, so it'll be a hot topic throughout the summit. So
John, why don't you head out? If anybody has any questions, just flag John down, and you can contribute if you aren't able to jump in the Twitter stream, just in the remaining time we have here. I'm also really curious about your thoughts on Amazon, Otto, because they are at the same time a platform provider for you, but also in many ways a competitor in terms of content, even as they're getting into original content. What do you make of Amazon and the transition that they've made over the last 4 or 5 years?
I think they've done a great job at separating out their the platform and the cloud service that they provide from their own products.
They actually host Netflix at the same time they compete with Netflix.
And I think they've done a great job at really not mixing those two and treating those those businesses as distinct and separate. And the fact that they have been able to maintain that that separation and level of trust is I think
not many companies could do that.
Not many, and they get a lot of respect, certainly from me for being able to do that. And the other thing that I think is puts them in a unique position is that they actually use their own services as they eat their own dog food, which I think is makes their platform offering that much more robust. Yeah.
So we do have a question, Todd. Let me jump in from Kyle Kesterson here at Freaking Genius right up front. Take it away, Kyle.
Thanks, Sean. Hey, Otto. So you mentioned building a storytelling platform, and my question is, does that consider opening it up beyond original content and using your own community for potential user-generated content sourcing future content ideas?
It's not at the top of the list, but I will say that as we think about future capabilities and what we want to build into the platform, we certainly want to do it in a way that could accommodate the widest array possible of future types of content. So to the extent that we can build the most scalable and general purpose platform, we'll certainly try to accommodate and plan ahead to the as best as we can.
So Kyle would be one of the guys you want to talk to as soon as you go down that route at Freaking Genius. It's a really interesting startup that started out on Connect, went over to iOS, so some fascinating stuff that they're working on.
Very cool.
So we got another question, Todd. Dave Welch here at Fusion Storm.
Yep. Hey, Todd. I'm a proud Roku user, but I don't have a cable subscription. I'll never pay a cable company ever again. Is there any plans to bring HBO Go to the mass audiences?
So, how many times are we going to ask you?
Yeah, we can ask that 100 times. I think.
One thing about cable, the notion of cord cutting, I think, I think isn't quite accurate, because you've got that Roku box, but you've got some form of high-speed internet, feeding that box. So, I don't think it's a question of cord cutting. It's just how you use that cord, and you're using that cord primarily for data, or exclusively for data. So I think ultimately the economics will answer your question.
Yeah. Well, this has been great. Otto Berkes from HBO, thank you very much for joining us.
Absolutely my pleasure. And
yeah, any last words that you want to share?
Well, thank you for this, and it's always great to be back in Seattle. And I'll put in one more plug for the Seattle office and the hiring that we're doing. It's very exciting to see that office being built out.
Great.
So thank you.
Thank you, Otto.
Thanks, Otto.
Yep.
Appreciate it.